Zaldrizes buzdaris kosdau.
Okay, so this first image is of Rhaena Targaryen. I see a lot of people were commenting on Twitter about what Rhaena would be doing on a battlefield, and supposedly the rumor that went along with the scene was that she falls off of something. It's either a horse or a dragon, or something happens and she falls and has a bit of an accident. Here's the thing. You fall off a dragon, you're dead. Usually, the dragon's hundreds of feet in the air, and if you fall from one, unless you're landing on a trampoline, right, you're gonna die. So most likely, if she does fall, it's probably off of a horse. Maybe she trips because the ground's really muddy. Now here's the thing. I don't think she's actually arriving on the battlefield. That wouldn't make any sense at all. That'd be too big of a deter from canon, right, for them to do for this series when you follow the logistics that they did in season 1, where they stuck so closely to the story. They like skated around the whole Laner thing, because technically he doesn't die how it happened in the show. He dies at a fair in Spice Town, right? But they still faked his death. Ultimately, same results. Putting Rhaena somewhere on the battlefield, risking her life, making her one of the dragon seeds wouldn't make too much sense, and it changed the story too much. So I think what's happening is they're filming a bunch of scenes in the Bourne Woods. And remember, we had Lady Jane Eyre announced not that long ago. She's going to be played by Mother from the Raised by Wolves series, right? So with that being said, we're going to have some scenes in the Vale. Not just when Jacaerys arrives there to get Lady Jane to pledge their support for the Blacks, but also when Joffrey and Rhaena arrive in the Vale. That's probably what's being filmed in this scene. Joffrey and Rhaena are sent to the Vale to guard the Vale against the attacks from dragons from the Greens in the Vale, right? So when they get there, they end up spending, not Joffrey, but Rhaena spends most of her time in the Vale. Joffrey ends up going down to King's Landing when Rhaenyra takes it. He ultimately dies falling off of Syrax. But Rhaena stays in the Vale till her dragon Morning hatches. And then once Morning hatches, it's like early 131 AC, news of that, the war's kind of still going on. The Greens are kind of worried because the Blacks now have new dragons coming into the fray. Now, if you look at some of these images, one of them has the actor who's playing Rhaena, and in their background, there's a bunch of, scenes of war. There's corpses from the battlefield laid all over the ground. Now, it is possible that they filmed a scene where Rhaena just shows up at the battlefield because this is where her grandmother dies, and then maybe she stops here on her way to the Vale. I just don't think it would make much sense. I think they're filming a bunch of different scenes. A lot of them have nothing to do with each other. They're just filming in a similar location, and that's what happened. We get the Rook's Rest battle is huge. The area that they filmed takes up a massive amount of space. That's just my guess. Let me know what you all think down below in the comment section. Just as a heads up, a lot of the lore and stuff that I'm going to mention outside of the images that were shown that were leaked from the set of House of the Dragon were requested by executive producers of these videos, specifically Tyler Schnabel, Destiny Phillips, and The North Must Remember, and also some stuff from Pebbles83. Shout out to every single one of them, including Brian Johnson. But real quick, before I jump into the rest of the contents of this video, please do me a massive favor, slap a like on. Like goal is going to be 420. Get it? And then also, if you're a really big fan of my content, or anybody else here on YouTube, and you just haven't pulled the trigger yet, please go ahead and subscribe. That's one of the best things, if not the best thing you could do for my channel here on YouTube if you want to help me succeed. Alonat and Zaldrizes buzdaris kosdau. The next scene that I want to talk about, don't worry, I'm going to get to the Rhaenys potentially burned corpse thing here in a second, but the next thing I want to talk about are the Wolves of Winter arriving into the fray. I don't know if you all remember, but my video from the other day, I mentioned how they're filming some sort of snowy scene in the woods, right? That was back when they just started first building the set. Now, we've got these images where this set is massive, right? And then when you combine it along with the Northern Wolves, all these dudes that were dressed in dark cloaks, they're on shaggy, sure-footed garrons, and they look scraggly. These are the Wolves of Winter. This is part of Cregan's army that he leads down south after Rhaenyra is dead. After everybody is dead, except for Aegon III, but they show up late to the party. What I think is happening here is the snowy wood scene is Jace arriving to Winterfell. Like, Jace is the Prince of Dragonstone. Technically, Jace is next in line for the Iron Throne, especially to those loyal to Rhaenyra. So, of course, they're going to have a royal big feast, and I think that's what this scene is. I think there's these winter wolves are going to film going through this snowy wood. This is potentially the Wolf's Wood outside of Winterfell. Jace has arrived. Jace could stop at the Vale at the same time that Rhaena arrives there. Remember, we know Rhaena's going to be going there for sure. That's where she spends the majority of the war. So maybe he'll stop at the Vale first, like in canon, go to White Harbor, and then from White Harbor head to Winterfell. But White Harbor sends word ahead to Winterfell like, hey, we're going to be having a feast, we're hosting the prince, let's do it big. That's what I think's happening in this scene. And real quick, this was kind of like a passerby shot. They didn't film it very long, but Aegon's army filming in front of this massive green screen means that there's going to be a scene where Aegon on Sunfire talks to his army, or Vhagar on Aemond. Yes, Vhagar will mount Aemond in Season 2, House of the Dragon. Aemond, mounted on Vhagar, is giving a speech to the troops at the Rook's Rest. Rook's Rest, the battle, will likely take place the entire length of the episode. There will be maybe about 10 minutes of non-battle action. The rest of it will all be insanely intense Battle of the Bastards level of cinematic epicness. I hope, at least. Miguel Sapochnik's not involved with this, but some of the people that are have some experience, and I hope they do it well. I know the actors and everybody involved on screen are going to do an amazing job. I just hope the writing and the direction is there to make it feel like Battle of the Bastards 2.0 or something, right? Or, really Battle of the Bastards is based off Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep from the Two Towers. So that's one of the most intense battles of all time, right? And, the attack at Winterfell, episode 3 of season 8, House of the Dragon, was supposed to be up there, but it was just poorly lit and we couldn't see what the hell was happening most of the battle. So, Rook's Rest should be on that level of amazingness like Helm's Deep, because a lot of that was filmed in the daytime. Like, yes, there's a large nighttime filming, but most of Rook's Rest will probably be filmed in the daytime. So we'll be able to see everything that's happening. The dragons will be lit up on screen, because when they're fighting in the sky, it's not going to be like covered in snow or whatever like in Winterfell. So this is going to look amazing. Cannot wait. If I had to guess, it's probably Aemond and Vhagar rallying the troops, because we saw Aemond is on the battlefield with Criston Cole. But I would love for Aegon to be the one to do it, because he's the king. And once he gets burned and he's sleeping all day, he's not going to get much screen time. So give him as much screen time as possible early on in Season 2. And then when he returns to the screen, or, having several scenes midway through Season 3, it will be cool, because we still feel like we get to know the character a bit. Now, the last couple images I want to talk about for this video are the several images of corpses on a battlefield. Now, there was this image that went along with them that showed that there was a lot of smoke. This is going to be a panning, zoomed out shot like aftermath of the battle. This may be for the start of the following episode, so they pick up, and show you what's going on with Aegon, what's going on with Sunfire, what happened with Rhaenys and Meleys, right? Meleys' head will need to be cut off from the dragon's body, so that's going to be intense to watch. This corpse right here, right? There's no actual proof that it's Rhaenys, aside from when you look at the image that we get from the Song of Ice and Fire books of what Rhaenys looks like after this battle. It's quite possible that because they're in the fetal position, that's the reason why people were like, oh, this is Rhaenys confirmed. But like I said, we don't actually know. There's no bits of armor. Like, Rhaenys' armor is pretty distinct. Like, maybe just one of her shoulder pauldrons, her shoulder armaments with the rubies in them. Like, if we saw a piece of that, we'd know, okay, this is Rhaenys. So, like, in canon, her body's unrecognizable, but it's found next to her dragon. So it's safe to assume that that mangled, charred corpse next to Meleys, well, that's Rhaenys, right? That's Rhaenys right there, because she fell off her dragon. She's burnt, right? So in the TV show, there was leaks that I was sent that said Rhaenys survives the fall. She is kept alive until they arrive to King's Landing, and then she's publicly executed. We sent another leak that said that Sunfire crawls over to Meleys, starts feasting on Meleys' corpse, and then notices that Rhaenys is still alive, and then Sunfire actually eats Rhaenys. We'll see. Sunfire does eat Rhaenyra in canon, so wouldn't be too far out of that dragon's character to want to feast. Also, it feasts on the corpse of the fallen dead. Like, after the battle, after Rook's Rest, Sunfire's unable to fly. So what it does is just stay stationary, crawl along the battlefield of Rook's Rest, and just sort of like slithers around like a snake, eating dead bodies from people. Aegon leaves a troop of men there to make sure Sunfire is safe, and they feed it They're feeding it corpses, they're feeding it meat. And then one day, they go to look for Sunfire, and then Sunfire's gone. It's because Sunfire gained enough strength and healed to fly all the way back to Aegon on Dragonstone. Just to reiterate, I do not think that that corpse is Rhaenys, although it's possible. It's in the same position that Rhaenys is in that famous image from the Song of Ice and Fire books. But to be fair, a lot of corpses, dead body, when you die, especially burned like that, you'll go into the fetal position. So that's not exactly, a safe bet to assume, because the corpse is laying in a similar position to the Rhaenys art. Also, look at all the other corpses. They look very similar. What I will say is, when they do, or if they do film that scene with Rhaenys being dead outside, there'd be a giant blue screen around it. And we haven't really seen that aside from the ones that they're using to distort the light in the entirety of the whole as the scene unfolds. Just as a bit of a side note, this part was requested by my patrons. There are some wild dragons that could potentially be claimed by Rhaena, because Rhaena doesn't fly dragon at all. In the entirety of this series, her dragon Morning isn't born until the very end, like I said, at the beginning of 131 AC. And the news of Morning being born in the Vale, right, sends like shockwaves throughout the Greens camp, the remaining Greens members, because it's kind of nuts that after all these dragon dies, the Blacks are still having new dragons being born onto their side. So the three wild dragons are Grey Ghost, Cannibal, and Sheepstealer. Sheepstealer is mounted by Nettles and Cannon. Grey Ghost is killed ultimately. We don't really know the what actually happens, but Grey Ghost is probably killed by Sunfire. And then the other one is Cannibal. Cannibal is the one who's going to descend from the air and eat Silver Dennis. Silver Dennis is the first dude. He claims descent from Maegor, but he's one of the first dragon seeds who volunteers himself. He initially tries to go get Sheepstealer. Sheepstealer bites his arm off. That's when Cannibal descends on Silver Dennis and all of his sons and just feasts on them. And then this next talking point comes from another one of my producers, Pebbles83. She mentioned it was always House Targaryen that had a succession crisis. Why, out of all the houses, is it always them? And do I think they were doomed from the start? Well, the biggest problem with Targaryens is the Valyrian lineage of wanting to keep their DNA pure, right? So they have to breed and intermarry in between, their own house, so that they could extend their bloodline and make sure that they still remain in power over Westeros, even without their dragons. Right, if that wasn't the big thing, and they were just a special house, like a lot of the other ones, like, House Stark or House Baratheon, even though House Baratheon is technically Valyrian, right, they wouldn't have a problem sustaining multiple heirs, because there's always someone that they could mate with. It's not the case with the Targaryens. Targaryens have several civil wars that wipes out potential matches for heirs in the future, because they're always killing themselves. And then also they become sickly and crazy, and they don't exactly breed out of their own bloodline a lot. So that's their biggest problem. So it may seem as though they're doomed, to answer your question, Pebbles, but it's really just because they kind of screw themselves or limiting their breeding choices. When one heir gets wiped out, it's many years before another one even is born or comes into power, and because they're not constantly mating with other houses all the time, it's easy to dwindle them down to nothing. But I don't think that an entire house could be cursed. Certain characters for doing certain things, like kinslaying, for sure. There's a lot of kinslaying in House Targaryen. There's also a lot of kinslaying in Lannisters and Starks and all that stuff. Alright, so this is an excellent point to wrap this video up. I want to thank you all so much for watching it, making it this far. Please slap a like on this video. Like goal's going to be 420. If you want to take it a step further, please consider joining my Patreon over on patreon.com/RHAENA. I do monthly panels where I talk with all of the members over there. We talk about A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon for several hours. The last one we did was 3 hours. That's already posted up there. You can join for just $5 and you immediately unlock about I think 27 hours worth of content that's exclusive to Patreon only. Also, if you can't join there, please just subscribe. That's the best thing you could ever do for me or anybody else you're a fan of here on YouTube. Just subscribe to their channel. It really helps them out, puts them up in the algorithm. Thank you to every single member of my Patreon family. Those members are Tyler Schnabel, Breanne Johnson, Pebbles83, The North Must Remember, and Destiny Mix Queen Phillips 420. And also, thank you for watching.